From the NewsChannel 5 network, this is Titans Talk.
Hey there, Titans Talk on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us. 2020 well underway. The playoffs well underway. And the Titans are moving on. How about that? Call us up tonight, 737-7767. Let's talk about this win. Titans go into New England, Gillette Stadium on Saturday night, and they knock off the reigning Super Bowl champion Patriots. 20-13 the final score. And it was just impressive the way it was done. When you have a marquee win, oftentimes there's tons of big plays and tons of highlights and all that sort of stuff. This was a sort of a systematic performance from the Titans. They did exactly what they wanted to do. They were physical. They traded blows and, frankly, outpunched the Patriots. They ran the ball effectively with Derrick Henry, even when the Pats knew it was coming, and loaded the box against them. They played good defense, ended up shutting out Tom Brady and company in the second half of the game. They took care of the football. They won the turnover battle 2-1. They were disciplined, didn't have many penalties, and they won the field position battle thanks to Brett Kern, the tremendous Pro Bowl punter that this team has had all season long. He was phenomenal again the other night, just putting the ball inside the 20-yard line repeatedly throughout the course of the night. And that set up the defense for success, especially in the second half. I think Mike Vrabel coached a good game. I think Dean Pease had a great game plan on the defensive side of the ball, adjusted well throughout after giving up some plays early on to the Patriots. And I think Arthur Smith did exactly what you need to do. When you're running the football that effectively on a cold and damp night, keep running the football. It was pretty clear that it wasn't going to be Ryan Tannehill's best night early on, the way the Patriots were defending, the way the weather looked. And so the Titans just stuck with the run, and they did what they had to do to win. And ultimately, they get one of the biggest postseason performances in the history of the franchise. They go on the road. Just a slim number of those victories in franchise history. And beat the reigning Super Bowl champions. Hasn't happened before. Possibly end the dynasty in New England. Tom Brady, of course, is a free agent. Bill Belichick's future is a bit unknown. Will that team ever look even remotely the same again? We don't know. But we know this. The Titans beat them the other night, and they are now moving on to the round of 8 in the NFL playoffs. A very, very impressive performance. And you just look up and down the list of what the Titans did. I mean, number one, the answer to the Patriots' opening drive was perfect. It was a well-designed play. It was all about Henry. It was being physical to come back and get a touchdown to answer them. Anthony Ferguson, the Harvard guy, becomes the first Harvard man to score a touchdown in the NFL's postseason. It put the Titans up 7-3. They had the huge goal line stand at the end of the half when it looked like New England was going to take a 10-point lead. Rashaan Evans steps up huge in that moment. Titans hold them to 3, get the ball back with the chance to take the lead before halftime, and they do with a 75-yard drive. Derrick Henry just a monster on that possession. He accounted for all 75 yards, punched it in himself from the 1-yard line. So the Titans had the lead at the half. They overcame what could have been very costly when Logan Ryan dropped what looked like a surefire pick six off of a deflection late in the half. It could have potentially been 21-13 Tennessee at the half. Instead, it stayed 14-13 all the way into the fourth quarter. But the defense just kept doing its job. Brett Kern kept pinning the Pats deep, and the defense got out of bad situations time and time again. Ultimately, Ryan with the pick six at the end on what might be Tom Brady's final pass at Gillette Stadium. And the Titans put it away, and they advance to the round of 8 for the second time in 3 years. But remember, this is just the team's second playoff appearance since the 2008 season. So not territory they are overly familiar with. But this one feels different. And I'm curious on your thoughts on this. Our phone lines are open, 737-7767. But 2 years ago when the Titans got in for the first time in a decade, And they go to Kansas City and they win, and it was a great second-half comeback. They came back from 18 down, and they win on the road, and Marcus Mariota was phenomenal, and Eric Decker catches the touchdown late to get them over the hump. Derrick Henry ran well in that game. When they won, I think there was a huge celebration because the Titans won a playoff game. But you knew next you're going to New England. You're going to the best team in football, and it's on the road, and it's Brady and Belichick and all that, and the season's over. Nice win in Kansas City, but you're not winning in New England. That was what it felt like 2 years ago. This feels different. Most people didn't give the Titans a chance to go to New England and win this time, and they did. They believed within the locker room they could get it done, and they went out and they proved it. But it also feels different after the game now because it's the same scenario. You're on the road. You're headed to face the number 1 seed in the AFC, the team with the best record in football, in the Baltimore Ravens. You got to go to Baltimore. It's going to be a difficult environment. You're facing the guy who's going to win the MVP of the league in Lamar Jackson. So you have all that going against you. And people are going to count the Titans out once again. But this feels a little bit different. It feels like when you beat Belichick and Brady on the road, there's going to be no task out in front of you that is just too tall to even consider handling. The Titans are going to be underdogs. They're about a 10-point underdog in Baltimore. But I don't think this team's going to walk into that stadium scared. They understand the task in front of them, that they have to slow down Lamar Jackson in an offense that ranks number 2 in the league. But they just slowed down Tom Brady and the Patriots. They've had other big wins along the way. They learned from 2 years ago. They learned from the experiences last year when they were playing essentially playoff football the last 5 weeks of the season to try to keep that year alive. They learned from the stretch run this year in which they went 7-3 and had to win in Week 17 to keep this season alive. And then they learned from a win in New England on Saturday. So now you go to Baltimore. And I think this team believes it can go win. And why not? After what they've done down the stretch and what they did Saturday night, there's no team in the NFL that just scares me with this team. And I think it's also about the way they're playing. The defense got back to its basics on Saturday night. Having Adoree Jackson gives you more depth in the secondary, and I think that was an important factor that can help them again this week and moving forward. But the biggest thing is what you look at with that offense. It had an off night on Saturday night, but Derrick Henry still runs for 182 yards, which is a franchise playoff record. It's the 3rd most ever by a running back on the road in the playoffs. That's what this offense can do right now. Ryan Tannehill didn't play very well. He had 72 yards passing, but that was the only off night he's had since he became the Titans starter back in Week 7. And this offense has been averaging 30 points a game when he's in there. And that's the other part of this is, so okay, maybe the defense can't go in and shut Lamar Jackson and the Ravens completely down. Maybe Baltimore puts up more points than 13. They probably will. But what we've seen from the Titans offense under Tannehill is most weeks they're putting up 25, 28, 35 points. This team isn't afraid of getting in a shootout with teams, and we saw that down the stretch of the regular season. And for that reason, I think you feel like this Titans team, unlike 2 years ago or maybe any other Titans team of recent memory, can go play with people however the game is played. If it's defensive, they can get into that. If it's a shootout, they can get into that. They have the ability to win the way the game is played. And therefore, no matchup should scare this team. Phone lines are open, 737-7767, the number. Let's go to Michael. Michael, how are you?
I'm fine.
Great.
Steve, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
My question is, Derrick Henry's played wonderful. He's been playing wonderful, but are we going to be able to keep him? His price tag to play is going to go out the roof. How do you feel about that?
It is definitely going up. There's no question about it, Michael. I just think when you look at the Titans right now, and John Robinson knows this, the Titans offense is built around Derrick Henry and about running the football. That's the identity of the team. And Tannehill, for as good as he's played this year, and he led the NFL in passing efficiency, he's had his absolute best games when he's thrown 18 and 19 and 22 times. And they're playing off that running game into the play-action game. I think John Robinson, he's a smart man. He knows that as much as I do or you do or anybody else does. So I think this team will do everything in its power to ensure that Derrick Henry is re-signed in this offseason and brought back. The question is, how high do you go on the salary? Because he will command a big-time price tag with this. I think you're looking at probably $15 million a year for Henry. So then the question is, how long is the deal? He just turned 26 on Saturday night. He's had 66 carries in the last 2 weeks. There is definitely tread on that tire after what you saw late last season, what you've seen this season from Henry. But you got to figure, with his size, the durability he's shown so far, he can continue to be a guy that is productive for a few seasons to come. 3-4 years within the contract would be what I would expect. The thing I love about Henry moving forward, and why I don't think this is as big of a gamble as some of the other backs out there that we've seen get those big time or big chunk contracts, is this. Henry's redefined himself here lately. Early in his career, his big days came when he got a big run. When he would break a run for 60 yards or 75 yards, that's when he'd top 100 yards for the day. And the other 15 or so carries he would get would net him 35 or 40 yards. Now Derrick Henry is constantly finishing downhill and imposing the will of a 6'3", 248-pound back on people. That's what makes him different, and frankly, that's what makes him special right now. There are a lot of backs in the league that can run away from you, and Derrick Henry's certainly one of them. There are very few backs in the league that can impart the punch that Henry can on a linebacker, on a defender, when you're trying to tackle him. And when he does that 25 and 30 times over the course of the game, that will wear on you. And by the fourth quarter, those holes get a little bit bigger and the finish gets a little bit stronger because he's just bigger and stronger and tougher than you. That, I think, is what has set him apart. That's why he's been so good down the stretch the last couple of seasons. That's why he's been really good the last 2 weeks for this Titans team. It is impossible for me to see a Titans offense without Derrick Henry. He's just too much of what they've done now over the last 25 games, dating back to last season. He's got to be back. And frankly, I think Tannehill has to be back from what you've seen down the stretch this year as well. The Titans finally found the recipe offensively. For so long, they wanted to run, they wanted to play action, but they were lagging way behind the other offenses in the NFL in what they wanted to do and how much production they could create, how many points they could put up. Now all of a sudden, since the middle of October in this quarterback change, everything has fallen into place. And you have an offense that's averaging 30 points a game. You have an offense that can match Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs toe-to-toe, or Deshaun Watson and the Texans toe-to-toe. Titans haven't been able to do that before now. It had to be a defensive game that they would win by creating turnovers or changing the field position or coming up with the big play. Now you can get in those games against the elite quarterbacks in the league and feel like you can win because you also have an elite weapon in Henry, and Tannehill's played at an elite level himself. So to me, it is a question about the offseason because it's going to cost some money. But here's the deal for the Titans. Of all the contracts that are up, and more than half of this roster essentially is up at the end of the season, two foundational pieces you have to bring back offensively are Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. And I think the number one priority on the defensive side of the ball is Logan Ryan. He had the pick six the other night, but he's been phenomenal all season long. More than 100 tackles this season. He's got 5 interceptions to lead the team. He has been the defensive leader for this team all season long. Other guys have played well. Kevin Byard, Kenny Vaccaro have been great at safety. Jarrell Casey looks like Jarrell Casey, the guy who has weathered through a knee injury to now look like the Pro Bowler he's been over the last few years. Jeffrey Simmons has been a key cog at times. Rashaan Evans looks like a real good player, linebacker. Jayon Brown has shown flashes. But if you're asking me for the MVP of the defense throughout the entire course of the year, it's Logan Ryan. And again, he's a free agent in the offseason, and I think you got to pay him for what he can bring to you and what he can do for this team moving forward. So some guys are not going to be back. That's clear. But there are some key guys on this Titans team that absolutely deserve to be paid because of what they bring to the table and what they mean to this team that is now in the NFL's version of the Elite Eight. Our phone lines are open, 737-7767. We want to hear from you guys tonight. Every line is open, so a short wait. We'll get to more phone calls when we come back. We'll get to some analysis of this game as well. Our Electric Power Company Sunday Sports Central breakdown of the game coming up. All that straight ahead. This is Titans Talk on News Channel 5+.